You want to know what the main issue is? I think the main issue is there's so many things on TikTok that like you don't know what's factual and what's not factual. Because I see some things sometimes and it's like, here's this history lesson. I'm like, oh, cool. And I think I learned something. And then it's not factual.
Right.
It's not true.
Right.
I even was tracking a hurricane the other day, and I saw videos of this supposed hurricane that came by in like Texas or something. And I was like, oh my God, like this hurricane really fucked up Texas that came by. And it wasn't even videos of Texas. It was like some AI shit of like floods and people swimming. And I was like,
wow.
I was the dumbass from Middle America that thought that was real.
Dang.
Yeah. So don't trust TikTok because she ain't real.
Yeah. Unless you're listening to one of us, then definitely trust us.
Yeah, we're factual here.
Yeah.
Super factual.
I have a master's degree.
I also have a master's degree.
Oh, but I do too.
Oh, yeah, I forgot we did.
Yeah.
Not that
We're educated.
One of us have used it, but
Oh, I use it all the time. Marketing.
yeah, but you didn't need to get that degree to get where you are today.
Maybe. Who would know?
You did not need to put yourself in that much debt to get where you are.
The debt part, I agree, but we will never know.
We'll never know.
We'll never know, and that's the
We
beauty
had
of it.
student loans.
We got loans.
I don't.
Oh, you're done?
Mm-hmm.
You should pay them off.
Paid them off. You still got loans from your school?
Nah.
Oh, good for you.
I guess we should do a proper intro. So for everybody watching, Joe Nucci is one of my friends who is a psychotherapist. And I honestly don't know what the term psychotherapist exactly means. I just know therapy. So what is the difference between just a general therapist, psychotherapist? Like, what is your specialty?
Well, speaking of listening to strangers on TikTok who don't know what they're talking about, I don't know what the internet regulation is, but in most states, almost anyone can identify as a therapist. It's not a protected term because there's like cryotherapy, massage therapy, like it's too broad. So psychotherapy denotes like mental health, like you're a psychologist or I'm a mental health counselor or like a clinical social worker or something like that. Like you practice the craft of psychotherapy.
Interesting.
But that's the difference. But also kind of concerning if the person doesn't have like psychotherapist anywhere. You know, maybe they're duping you.
See, I almost thought of like the term
massage therapist is also a therapist.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Well, I think massage therapist
I don't know.
is protected, or like mental health counselor is protected, but like just therapist by itself in a lot of states, my understanding is that it's not protected.
Because I almost viewed it as like, let's say I have an eating disorder. I thought you could like psychotherapy into me eating something. Like I thought that's kind of like what a psychotherapist
Oh, you thought it was like a
is you kind of like play with someone's brain and kind of like help them get somewhere by playing with their brain.
Oh, you thought it was like a hypnotization
Not
thing.
hypnotism, but
Yeah, you thought it was like a verb?
A rough form of what's the right word? A rough form of manipulation.
Oh, you thought it was like intense psychotherapy.
Yeah, like you could train someone to think differently because you, not that you just know how the brain works.
Okay.
So
Okay,
that's
yeah.
not
I
what you
mean, I do
manipulate people.
I guess, yeah, but they're like paying me to. So,
Yeah,
you know,
fair.
it's consensual, it's ethical.
Consensual manipulation.
Do you actually work with a lot of gays though, or not really?
Yeah, you know, it's not something that I explicitly advertise in my practice because I have this weird superstition that if I build the practice up like too much and just focus it on gay men, that I'll like meet the person that's supposed to be my husband and then I won't be able to date them.
Oh, interesting.
And so, but people like can tell, or they see my content, or like I am openly like gay to my followers and stuff. So then sometimes people have reached out that way, or I have gay colleagues that will like refer me because someone's like looking for a gay patient. So I do have some, but
You're, like,
my dream is that like once I'm like hitched, it's like I will only treat gay guys.
No, but if you think about it, like most people when they're choosing a doctor, when they're choosing a therapist, when you're finding your inner core to help you grow as a person, you want someone who can relate to you.
Yeah,
if I had a female therapist or psychotherapist, she's not going to understand what the fuck I'm talking about because she hasn't lived it.
Yeah.
You have lived it. You understand what's happening. It's a very different thing.
Right. Well, I think it also depends on like what the clinical issue is. So if you just have like very standard like depression or anxiety, I don't think that your therapist matters very much. But if that depression or anxiety, or if it's all connected to like your gay identity or like what you're going through in that time period of life, then I think it matters more. And so what I often tell people is that, listen, like if you think the identity is going to matter, it probably does because you want to feel like you can open up. And so honor that. But then some people feel like it does matter and then it doesn't. So one example of this is one of my first patients ever was a young woman who was a survivor of sexual assault. And she actually confessed later in our therapy journey together that she didn't want to see me because I'm a dude, but that I was a student at the time and that no one else was available.
Oh, wow.
And so, but then she ended up saying to me, she was like, oh, actually, it ended up being amazing because I developed like this close emotional relationship like with a man that I was like obviously terrified to do.
Oh,
And that was
interesting.
actually healing. And so it can, you know, it can
It
be
ended
a
up
good
working.
thing to have a different identity
Wait,
in some
that's
unexpected ways.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Wait, so going back, because you said you're obviously single,
Yes.
looking for a man.
Ish.
So how often do you go on dates and you kind of psychoanalyze the person you're on a date with? So I got to imagine that's pretty hard.
Yeah, so I'll answer it in two parts. The first part is that at the beginning of my training and career, this was very difficult for me to turn off. But it's like, you know, like you're in grad school, like all you're doing is reading books, all you're doing is going to classes, you're like practicing it in your internship, like you're just like saturated in therapy and mental health. So it's like, it's difficult because it's like, it's just top of mind.
Yeah.
You know? But then as you get older, it becomes a little bit more like an on-off switch. Like I was able to be like, I'm like in shrink mode or I'm not in shrink mode. But then as I've gotten even older, it's more like a dial. It's like, you know, I'm going to turn it up or down. But then I feel like I'm actually in this like fourth stage where it's like, is the person in front of me, is the person I'm on a date with, are they going to start turning it up based on the stuff they say?
Oh,
And
weird.
then I'm kind of like, do I want it to turn up or I'm going to turn it off? What I tell people, and this is part two, we are all analyzing the people we're dating. We're all trying to like understand, like, you know, what's your deal? What are you about? Like, are you being honest? Like, are we a good match?
Tomorrow?
And so exactly.
might.
And so I kind of, you know, I try to, you know, disarm people with a little bit of humor. And it's kind of like, yeah, I am, but you are too.
Yeah.
You know?
We're all
So-
Technically,
judging,
I guess
just
they are, yeah.
Sometimes you're not judging in an educated way, where I'm judging just from a first glance, and
Right.
you're judging from the textbook in your
Right.
brain.
Well, sometimes I think it actually kind of messed me up more in the beginning. Like I don't think I was like any more wiser or discerning because I was able to like so compassionately understand why you were acting weird, but I never like stopped to consider it's like, but do I want to date you? And so that's actually been part of my journey. I think I'm more out of that now where it's like now I'm kind of like, oh, like I can quickly assess. I've been given the tools and I know like, are you a little eccentric or like, are you undiagnosed on the spectrum? Like, you know what I mean?
Oh my God, interesting.
Wait, I'm gonna ask this, but I don't want to do a deep dive. I always get asked if I'm autistic.
Oh my God.
Have you ever gotten that vibe from me?
No, not you.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think so either.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also one of those things where it's like it's very big on the internet right now.
Yes,
and
they're like
there was-
acoustic.
Well, one study found it was something like between 50 and 80% of the posts analyzed were either misleading or false. So
Wait,
it's
that's
pretty
crazy.
bad.
Yeah.
Wait, that's wild.
I'm not
Yeah.
surprised. Everybody wants to be like diagnosed with something these days, I think.
Yeah.
They're like, I have
Yeah.
ADHD. I have ADD. I mean, I think a lot of people do have depression or anxiety or whatever, but like everybody wants to like have something.
How often do you think, I don't want to call it a placebo, but how often do you think someone is just looking for a terminology to make themselves feel better about themselves, to justify their feelings? Because I feel like a lot of
Interesting.
people are kind of like, oh, I have this, I have that, but I don't know the right word for it, and it
Just
gives
be
them anxiety, it makes them like
hypochondriac,
doubt.
maybe.
And then the minute you tell them, oh, here's what you are, they're like, okay, now this makes so much sense. Like, they just need the definition to feel better about themselves.
Well, I don't know about like rates of people or like percentages, but I will say that if someone is struggling, what often happens if they're diagnosed correctly, it's like a huge relief.
Yes.
Because then they're like, wait, like I'm not the only person like this. Like this has been studied. Like this is treatable. Particularly, you know, like yes, anxiety and depression, but particularly some of like the weirder, less known ones when people learn them, and like I'm sure, and like they've like gone through all the tests and whatever. It's like this is what you have. It's often a great relief because then you're able to help them, and that's what a diagnosis is. It's a way to inform the treatment plan. Some people, particularly if they're getting treated by Dr. TikTok or Dr. Google, they can use it to kind of evade responsibility, and they say, well, I'm this way because of my ADHD. It's like, I have ADHD. Most of my friends don't know it about me, unless they've known me for a very long time, pre-diagnosis. And then they were like, they're like, oh yeah, we could tell.
They're like, this makes sense.
They're like, you're all over the place. So,
Okay, wait. So you obviously have gay patients, you have female, you've got everybody. What are some common themes that you see in gay men that are kind of repetitive, that, oh, this is in fact of coming out or struggling with an identity? Like, what are some common themes?
well, it kind of depends on where they're at on their journey, right? It's like, did they just come out of the closet? Are they still in the closet? Or are they just kind of trying to figure out like what kind of gay man, what kind of man, or however they identify, like who they want to be as a person. I would say for the latter group, one thing that's been coming up a lot recently is just struggles with like open relationships.
Ooh.
And my take on that, and I think my sample size is biased because obviously the people I'm dealing with are, struggling with their mental health. It's like a lot of them, I just feel like don't have any business being in one.
Yeah, honestly.
And it's like,
why are you in an open relationship?
I'm very sex
Yeah.
positive. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I could certainly be in that arrangement, but it's like I'm a goddamn shrink. It's like I think about feelings and their complexities all the time. A lot of people, it seems to me, like they want to have a boyfriend and date around for something better, but it's like they're not subtle about it, and that obviously causes a lot of hurt feelings. Other people, they do it because they think it's what they're supposed to be doing. But they don't actually like it. So, I'm thinking of a couple, I have a couple I'm friends with. They're open. I'm very successful with it. And, they tell me it's like, when they hear about their partner with someone else, like they get aroused, that's how they're wired.
No.
Versus other people are like, if I even thought
Like, I'm
about
so
that person
jealous.
dancing with someone else, like,
Yeah.
I would puke.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, yeah, like you're probably not.
You
like,
shouldn't be in an
wired
open
that way.
relationship. Yeah, they're like, I get so jealous, and it's like, yeah, well, that's not the right fit for you.
Totally.
Yeah.
I know this is a complete pivot, but what form of an open relationship do you think would work for you?
For me, I think one in which there was a prolonged period of monogamy at the beginning.
in the beginning,
Because that's, I was just talking to somebody about this actually. There is a lot of like biological like pair bonding that happens during sex. And while, I'm totally like, like a modern man and like a little bit of a hippie and like totally sex positive, I do think that sometimes people ignore that like we know that all these like hormones get released during sex. And if you're only getting that with one person, that does facilitate a certain kind of bond that I think is important to some people.
For sure. And especially if your brain's elsewhere and you're not giving that one person the time of day, it's like, how's that relationship supposed to grow if you're giving other people that energy?
Totally. Or sometimes I think that particularly in New York, a lot of guys, based on just what I've observed with patients and just, my own journey and like talking to friends and stuff, I think a lot of people will able to get short-term physical needs met to avoid doing the work for like deeper commitment, because like why wouldn't you do that? Like if you're
That's a
avoidantly
quick
attached
fix.
or having abandonment issues, like just get your physical needs met and then and then just be alone. Like
That's
okay.
true.
You don't have to worry about it.
I mean that will eventually catch up with you, but it's a good short to medium.
Yeah,
I mean,
short-term,
look at
like,
us. We're all still single and we're, doing great. No, I think I would just have specific rules. Like, I don't know if I can necessarily be in a free-flowing open relationship, but there would be rules in place that I think, like, my biggest couple rules would be, one, no one's allowed in our home.
Okay.
Like, I wouldn't let somebody, if I was away, you can't bring some random bitch to our home and hook up with them in my bed.
It feels too
because
personal.
That's
Totally.
like a big rule, I think.
Yeah.
I think my second rule would be if, you're on vacation with the bros and, you meet someone in Europe and whatever, go off. Go do your thing.
Girls trip.
Like, have so much fun.
Girls
Because
trip,
I know that random person you're meeting abroad is not coming
They're
back
never
to New
going to
York.
come back. Yeah. Hopefully.
And then my last one
And then they show up.
is you don't hook up in the friend group.
Friend group? Yeah. This makes sense.
I think that makes sense.
Even you, like, let's say I hooked up with somebody in your friend group and then we hooked up and you had to constantly see me. Like, you don't want to keep running into that same person or people because it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think like same city, same city almost is. Well, I don't know. That's tricky.
Yeah.
How do you feel about friend groups that hook up with each other?
I mean, again, I think it's back to what I said about people not having any business being in an open relationship. The reason they don't have any business doing it is because they don't know how to navigate resentment and jealousy. They don't know how to draw boundaries. They don't know how to forgive. So for example, like let's say you and I are dating and you go and do something in our openness that was not specified by me that you were not allowed to do it because I didn't know that it hurts so much.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt me and I'm going to resent you and I have to forgive you. You didn't know.
Yeah.
But that's some complex emotional territory and and just to be clear, lots of, not just gay men, lots of people navigate it perfectly responsibly. A lot of the ones that I treat don't seem to. And my advice continues to be maybe you need to not do that until you have some handle on the other kind of mental stuff going on.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, I have a weird question. So gay people who have anxiety or depression and they kind of get very anxious about different things about life, how many of those people are anxious about fear of like dying alone? Because I think a lot of gay men don't have a relationship And for someone who's kind of like in our wheelhouse, I mean, we're like 30, you know, you're past your 20s now, right? So now you're watching people get older. A lot of my straight friends are in relationships, having kids. And then I go out with them or hang out with them, and I'm living a completely different life on my own that they don't even relate to at this point because we're completely different.
Yeah.
Right.
How many of those people struggle with that comparison?
Yeah. I don't have an answer on like percentages. I know that's something that's coming up for me right now because I only turned 30 this year. And I adore like my straight friends from college. I particularly all like my straight fraternity brothers. And I saw them not that long ago and I had this moment of, I was like, you're all wifed up and like this is kind of boring compared to my bromos.
I agree.
You know?
It's so weird.
You know, and so it's something I'm still kind of figuring out, but I also think that, you know, just different phases of life. You know, like if I'm in a single girl phase and I'm going to be like going out a lot and like meeting people, then that's great. And I mean, I'm also thinking back to my last relationship where we were like, I mean, it was a total like lesbian moment. Like we never went out. We were so happy to leave all that behind. We were like later, we won.
Like you thought you were in the clear. You were
Totally.
like, I'm done.
Exactly.
Dang. Good for you. Well, I guess not, but
yeah, no, totally.
you were onto something.
But it was more commentary on like, you know, just like the different phases and different seasons of life.
I mean, being a gay man, I feel like it's just different from us in general. So like, we can't even compare ourselves to them, you know, like they, you know, these people that we went to high school with or college with, like they just have a different story arc, storyline. Our storyline is more like this. Their storyline is kind of just like this. Their trajectory, yes.
But what I think is weird is I think when you're born, you're given a trajectory. And then when you come out or you're, you know, 21, you were 16, whatever you are when you come out, you're then told that your trajectory is not the trajectory that you thought you were going to be on for the next 16 years of your life or 21 years of your life, or I don't know when you came out. But when that happens, you have to pivot your brain and be like, okay, well, everything I thought I ever wanted, I now cannot have and I'm not going to get because it's not realistic in that timeline. Like I used to be, I'm going to be like my parents and be married at 24 and have kids by 30. Like I thought that for the longest time. That. And then when I came out, I was like, I can't do that. Like, and then I moved to New York and I was like, this is physically motherfucking impossible.
Totally.
So when you think that way for 21 years and then you're told you're not going to get that, I feel like it takes a minute to process that.
Interesting.
That's going to be your friends' lives, but that's not necessarily going to be the path you're on. And it takes a minute to be like, okay, well, what the fuck am I doing?
I've just been taking it year by year, day by day. I never thought about that. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Person,
yeah.
You know?
Well, I don't know if you've thought about this, but there's the, you know, settling down earlier split, but then there's going to be this other one when people start having kids,
divorce,
including our gay friends who have kids. I think it's like Dan Savage has this like funny like quote where he's like, I have way more in common with my straight friends who are also parents than my gay friends who have slings.
Fair.
And it's like totally fair. Like, of course you do.
Yeah.
You know, like.
And gay parents, I know a gay couple who has kids and they are, I don't want to say cheating on each other, but they're both trying out this openness that should not be open because they're doing it in the shadiest way. And I'm playing middleman, that they're both coming to me about what they're doing. And I just have to sit there and be like, oh, he has no idea for sure. And I just have to play it off.
Oh my God, send them to me.
So uncomfortable.
I might need you.
And they just had a newborn baby. So this is their second kid. And I'm like, you're just co-parenting at this point. And I feel like I never want to be in a relationship like that because I'm like, you think it's cool that you're married with kids and you live this bougie life, but your husband's cheating on you behind your back.
But he's even behind the back. I feel like they both know, but I don't know.
They definitely don't know, right?
They do. They do. They literally,
I mean, when I imagine myself having a kid, I imagine like, I hate to say it, like no shade, but like maybe like, you know, prioritizing less like my sexual needs and freedom.
I agree.
Like, I don't know. Like, is that radical?
Theoretically,
like,
you would imagine that's what happens eventually.
Am I just like a Republican for saying that? Like, I don't know. Like,
so right wing of you to say that.
Oh my God.
No, I agree. That stuff is gonna. You're not gonna like go to a sex party the day the baby's born. Like, it's probably not gonna happen.
Totally.
I hope not.
I'm gonna throw this out there really fast because
hope not.
That couple was supposed to go to, I think it was like Pine's party or something.
Insane.
And they were like, do we still go? And I was like, what do you mean you still go?
Like, we got a nanny.
A kid. I was like, you're literally gonna miss the birth for fucking Pine's party.
Wait, the birth of the baby?
They were gonna miss the birth of the baby to go to
That's
Pine's party, and that's what they were arguing about. And I was like,
can't.
Like, I
You
get
should
taking a
probably go to the birth.
vacation, like take
I
the
can't.
vacation,
I
take
can't.
a little week off in the summer, whatever it is. Take the kids on European vacation, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's insane. That's
Insane.
weird.
Right.
That's they got to
Totally. Well, because I mean, I think it's one thing where it's kind of like, like maybe they're little, they're like 4 or 5. Like you leave them with grandma or something. Like you go for a weekend.
You need
like,
breaks.
Totally. You
need a
absolutely need
break.
breaks. Like I'm not hating on that, but it's like, but the birth.
That's crazy.
Although I've heard that births can be very long. Like they can be like, 30 hours.
They're not
long.
even having the kids. They're 2 gay guys. They can stand there or hang out in the waiting room.
facts, yeah,
And just chill on their phones.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
wild.
They
Like,
shouldn't
as
be
fuck.
parents, probably.
Do you see yourself as a dad?
Fuck yeah. I just need a few more years.
Oh, well, obviously, I don't expect you having a kid now. Do you
Yeah.
see yourself as a dad?
I think so. I go back and forth.
I can
you have
see
to
you as
kind
a
of
dad
like
for
ask
sure.
me. It's
Yeah,
like,
definitely giving dad with
It
the
depends on
stash.
like the season of life. Like sometimes I think, because like I love what I do like so much, and I'm so like career oriented. I sometimes think that, like, have you seen that episode of Grey's Anatomy where Christina Yang is like saying how she like wants the abortion because like the issue is she will love her child and give up her dreams like for her child. Sometimes I kind of feel that way where I'm kind of like, I have these like ambitions and I'm like, no, but like I'll love the hell out of my kid. Like I'll give up my dreams for it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a monster. But
But
so then
think
I'm like,
about the amount of
maybe I
people
don't
that
want to do
that.
it. Yeah, I know.
Mad people do that.
Yeah.
I think most straight people actually probably
They
do that.
most of them do at the age of 21.
My grandma did that. My grandma always tells me that she had a kid at 16 and she was like, I live vicariously through you because I always wanted to like be a
that's so
hairdresser and move to
depressing.
New York and blah blah blah. And
my
she
God,
had 4
amazing.
kids
Makes
before
me
she was
so
like
sad.
and she just couldn't do that because you had kids and you have to give that up. And so I think sometimes when you have kids, you just miss out on like a whole chapter that you wanted to experience.
Or
but
it's
can't.
2 or 3 or 4 your
Yeah.
whole life. That's depressing. I don't like
It's a different generation though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
True.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get 1% personal because as 3 people who are on social media, do you think have you ever dealt with somebody who has a presence on social media and they struggle meeting people because we're getting judged for what you post online, or fans have a preconceived notion of you, and so if someone's hot and they DM me and then you meet up with them, they already know more about you than you know about them. Do people ever struggle with that when they are showcasing their personalities on the internet?
Yes, I get it a little bit. So I only started posting content a little over a year ago.
Really?
So I'm very, very new.
You grew that much after a year?
I know. Isn't that wild?
That's wild.
Mental health is really hot
Yeah,
on the
people
short
love it.
form right
People
now.
love the doctors.
And so it's been, that's been like the length of the journey. I did make this joke after I initially went viral a couple of times where I was like, maybe I need to find a husband like now who likes me for me.
Yeah.
And then my friend's dad, who I like respect so much, like I love Bob, he goes, that's a really good idea. And I was like, oh my God.
And
I was
you're like,
that
I
is
gotta
not-
hurry
I
up.
was like, but I personally haven't dealt with it that much. It's you know what it is. I think also it's like the bar for being like, because I don't really think of myself as like famous as someone like who's like a content creator or an influencer, but the bar for being famous in the gay world is just so much lower.
For
Way
sure.
lower.
You know what I mean? And so
Way
it's like if
lower.
I'm at like even like at Pride, it was like I got a few. It's like, oh, I like love your videos, and everyone's always super cool and nice. I haven't dealt with it too much as a struggle. I mean, I imagine that maybe some people don't like my videos or takes, and then they like immediately decide like that they don't want to. But I really mean, I think pretty much all of what I say. So
Yeah.
if you really can't find it in yourself to like be friendly to me, then I don't want you talking
Yeah,
to
that's
me.
fair.
Why are you?
I don't know. I mean, in terms of dating, my experience has actually been like, I connect with someone and then they find out and they're always like, oh, that's actually very cool. And then we like talk about it.
Yeah.
No one has, have you ever has someone ever like slid into your professional DMs? And then,
What do you
like,
mean
you've made up with it?
professional DMs?
I have a personal page.
You have 2.
Yeah,
yes.
I do. I do. Yeah.
But I just got the one.
Okay.
There's
Oh, you
no
just got the
profession-
one.
I am
okay.
professional.
Oh, whoa! It's all blended. That's
It's
so
all
wild.
blended.
I think that's helping me
I
because
get-
it kind of keeps
I
like
get
them
the dick
separate.
pics and I get a brand deal, all in the
Oh,
same grid.
amazing.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
sometimes it's a little bit. While the separation has its benefits, sometimes it's a little. How would I say it? like I'll meet someone like out or something and they like want to follow up and connect, and then I don't see their message for like 3 weeks because it's just buried in like the chaos of spam and requests for therapy that I'm not going to open. So, like,
That's fair.
Like,
I think you did that to me, actually.
you pretend that you get the automated
I think
reply.
you hit me up and
You
you were
got the
like, "Can we
automated
move this
message.
conversation?" I was like, "If you want." Like I was like, "Okay." And then I remember being like, "I think wait, this is like funny." So I think you hit me up on something to invite me to a party, and I was like, "I don't know." Because you have such a deep presence on the internet of like not intimidating, but I think your voice is almost so soothing and calming and intense that I was like, I don't know if we're gonna either get along or if I'm gonna be too much
So
for
fair.
you. Because I was like, if I'm ripping shots of tequila, are you gonna like judge me or something? Because you give me such a calming, like,
You're like,
I
I'm
was like,
scared of
I
the
don't know
doctor.
how we're gonna relate with each other, and I was like, I don't want to go to this party, and I don't know what I'm gonna walk into.
Oh my God.
So I was like, I'll meet him one day in passing, and then we met in Fire Island, and I was like, she cool,
See
she
if
cool.
you catch
Oh
the
my
vibe.
gosh, yeah. You
Yeah.
know, well, since this is, you know, being recorded, allegedly my parties are very, very fun. So,
You passed the vibe check. Yeah.
well, I
That's the vibe
actually,
check. I mean, yeah.
well, since, you know, we're talking about all this stuff, I was asked to talk at Aspen Gay Ski Week about gay mental health this past year. And I, of course, I said yes, but then I immediately felt this fear. And I've actually posted about this where I was like, if I speak on this topic, no one is going to want to like party with me or hook up with me. Like they're going to think, because it's not even like the
then you're
media
like
thing. It's like the
the-
therapist thing.
Yeah, you're like the guru.
And but so then the title of my talk was called "How to Party Like a Shrink," and I basically just like explained to people that, you know, hedonism does not equal mental illness, and that is actually scientifically true.
Yeah.
You know, like there are specific ways we measure these things and like understand, you know, dysfunction from whether it's sex or drinking or like whatever it might be. And so that ended up being my talk, and it was very well received because I think a lot of people feel like it's like, oh, in order to be like healthy, I have to be like pure like all the time.
Yes.
I don't know if you've met some like really like rigid sober people out there, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Sometimes,
a
and I
lot of
say
the
this
sober
politely,
girls are
Sometimes
kinda-
when you're sober for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because you're trying to work through things, and I
Yeah.
think when you add substances that you
Yeah.
can't, it's not helping your brain adding the
Yes.
substances. So you need them in it to recuperate your brain, and then you
Yes.
can maybe play with things again.
Totally.
Some people don't need it, period. and
Yeah,
that's cool
I've
too.
dated a lot of
Yeah.
sober girlies, and yeah, there's a reason usually, and they're going
Yeah.
through some stuff, and
Yeah.
it's fine, you know.
Like our one friend, or my friend, he's sober right now because he has like stomach issues, and his stomach just can like not get it together. He's got like ulcers and shit, and he's been sober for like 18 months.
Yeah.
And he's like, at this point, I've learned to live a completely different life.
Yeah.
That I don't even know how or why I would want to go back
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
the alcohol life, you know?
Totally. I was sober, was it like, I think it overlapped with grad school some for like about a year. I was just like very curious. I personally, you know, addiction, substance misuse isn't something that I personally struggle with.
Yeah.
But if it makes sense, I actually recommend that like everybody do it. Maybe not even for a year, but like,
Yeah.
but not a month. Because when
Yeah.
people do like the 30 or 60 days, it's like a
for
diet.
January, yeah, it's
You
like
know,
a
but
crash
it's like
diet,
when it's
yeah.
a prolonged period of time.
Yeah.
I was talking to another mental health influencer. Her name's Amanda White. Like this is her whole thing. It's like gray area drinking
Interesting.
problems. Her whole thing is like, no, do it for a year and actually see what that life is like. But my argument for it is like, I got to learn like enjoying sober sex, enjoying sober dancing. Like who do I actually want to like hang out with? And now
Interesting.
I use, you know, when I do drink, it's much more selective. It's just much more calculated. And it's like kind of honors my nervous system.
Yeah, I don't like drunk sex. I have some friends who can only get horny when they're drunk, though,
That's
too.
Yeah.
okay. I don't only get horny when I'm drunk,
But mostly.
But there's a couple factors here. Number one, I think it goes in easier if you're a little drunk. You know, you're like a little
Makes
less
sense. Makes
tense.
sense. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I
True,
also
true.
think in the sex form,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not hooking up with people that
Yeah.
are very consistent people. So I think when you're having these one-off situations or
Yeah.
1 or 2, 3 times, you're still kind of exploring this other person's body, what they like, what they don't like, and it feels more playful when you got a little buzz.
I just get more numb down there when I'm tipsy.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've never had that problem.
Yeah.
You get like a whiskey dick, if that's what
Yeah.
you want to call it. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just don't feel like
Yeah.
hooking up. I'm like, like go out or just like whatever, goof off.
Well,
Which I've seen you wasted and doing.
yeah, but I'm not really horny though. I'm just like making out and like yeah, but I don't really get hard.
Yeah.
I guess I've never seen
Well-
you from below, but I've seen.
Well, you know, I say that, but then I'm also thinking back to like early 20s in college. Like I would just become like a horny monster when I
Were
would
you
get
gay
drunk.
in college?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So So yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe just like different phases, different seasons.
In
Yeah.
college, definitely a little bit. But now,
Totally.
I'm like,
But also, but
I think it's
it
sober.
makes sense why people prefer to be inebriated, because like when you're drunk, you care less about the consequences of your actions. So
Yeah,
like
you shit on a dick when you're drunk and say whoops.
And
I do it sober,
And what could
I'm
be more
like, whatever. Just kidding.
Ow. But one of the things you also talk about on your Instagram often is toxic masculinity. So why don't you just like give the definition of what exactly toxic masculinity is? Because I think that terminology is thrown around very loosely a lot. And I think everyone has a different definition of what exactly it is.
Yeah, well, you know, a lot of what I talk about is I don't think that toxic is not just it's called like a subclinical term, like it's not diagnostic in any way. I don't even think it's psychological, is my hot take. Like I think it's something that people say like when they're talking about culturally relevant things like masculinity to just mean bad, or they don't like it. The traditional definition is, you know, kind of this list of masculine qualities like, you know, like stoicism, repressing emotion, hypersexuality, you know, all sorts of things. My definition is a little bit of a tweak on that, because I think it's like, I can see how those things are problems, but they're really only problems, you know, if you're rigid about it. I think like rigidity and toxicity when you're talking about masculinity or femininity go hand in hand, because if you're a stoic person, there's not actually anything wrong with that. If your partner is having like some sort of an emotional meltdown because they feel like you're cold and distant and like can't like connect, like they can't see any chinks in your armor, and you just leave them like that and you don't like show that you care, that's a little toxic.
Got it.
You know,
so not opening up and like, because you were taught as a man to not show emotion. So you guarding your emotions and not opening up,
That's
that is
toxic.
toxic, because you're not opening yourself up to someone else. And that's kind of what you're supposed to do, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. So it's like, it's not even like, you can be a little more stoic, a little more closed off, but it's like, are you flexible in that trait? You know, like, because then the reason I like the rigid kind of asterisks, if you will, you could take any kind of personality trait, like extroversion. If you're rigidly extroverted, like you can't be not without people ever. Like you're probably gonna like make some mistakes. Like I don't know, you know, like that's probably not good for you or for the people around you. Or if you're, you know, I don't know, rigidly like agreeable. Like you can't ever draw a boundary. You can't ever offend someone. Like you can't handle any conflict. That's not going to be good.
Like you're afraid to share an opinion because you're like, oh, I'm going to get canceled if I say this.
Totally.
Yeah. My version of toxic masculinity is, this is a prime example, is I feel like I find it so funny that we all feel this need to present ourselves in a way that's so like masculine.
Yeah.
Like every time you take like a grinder photo or like a Instagram story post of you at the gym or whatever it is, like you always are looking like so hot and like this, and like you look manly, or like you're like this
Macho,
on your car, or you're like this flexing. But then the minute the picture's over and you take your hands and you're like, oh my god, hi, how to see like nice to see you. And your octave
Hey
goes from,
girl.
like you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
That's what I view toxic masculinity is. I feel like everybody wants to be this like broy bro, and everyone finds it so hot that like this is what you should be. But most gay men are not that vibe, you know? Like your voice actually is very deep. My voice is not very deep. Your voice, I think.
Well, I think everybody's voice changes, which is, I think, is interesting. Like at some tones, it's lower. When you're excited, it goes higher. If I'm drunk, it goes even higher. If I'm at the club, like I think everybody changes a little bit, and throughout the days, people's voices change. At least mine. And I don't know. I think I will say the cool thing though is that I think people these days are a little bit more open to people being less of this like I don't know. I feel like back like 4 or 5 years ago, I used to be a lot more scared to be like more feminine or about my voice or how gay I presented. But like now these days, like it's whatever. Like I feel like
you don't care.
I feel like there's way less pressure to present masculine.
Totally.
Especially like in LA, New York. Maybe when I go back to Michigan a little bit, I feel the pressure a little bit to like bro it up a little bit. But when I'm in LA, fuck no, whatever the fuck I want. I don't care. I'll be like, hey, what's up? Or like, I don't know. And it's been fine. Like dating has been fine. Like it's been chill.
What about you? Do you think, because you actually present pretty masculine, so how often do many people think that this is a facade?
Well, you know, it's interesting because a lot of my friends, when I started posting videos, were like do you turn up your gay voice for the video?
Ooh.
And I was like, and I was really thinking about it because I was watching something. And I was like, maybe. And I've at this point, I've thought so much about like my voice with like, you know, mics and lighting and like all that stuff. But then I have, so I thought that was very interesting. But then I also know that I've had many people from college be like, oh my gosh, like your voice has gotten so much deeper. You know what I mean? So like, I don't really know, like, I'm sure there's like science or like something about like voices and changing stuff. I know that for me, post-college pre-video, I got very, very into meditation. And I do feel like I'm more like in my body and like I definitely like speak more from here. And so I think that naturally kind of like lowers it. And so one of my hotter takes is like, I think part of the range is actually like where are you speaking from? Because if I get really excited about an intellectual idea, like I feel myself speaking from my head. I feel the octave go up, but here I'm just trying to like, you know, just like have a great conversation with you all and just trying to like feel connected. And so this is
so your
kind of
voice
more my
gets
mid-range.
deeper when you think from the heart.
I think so for me. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think so.
Well, I think the internet voice is interesting because I when I'm filming, I also have like a more like more energetic kind of voice, and I definitely present differently online.
My friend Jocelyn said to me, she has a girlfriend of mine. She has tons of gay guy friends. She goes, oh, that's not gay. She goes, that's just your TikTok voice.
Yeah,
because it's like you're like, here are 5 things. Like here are 3 things, and so it's like it naturally like
well, it's
you
like
go
a character. It's like a character.
Yeah. But then I was thinking about that, and then I was when I was looking at like, you know, different creators or whatever. I was like, oh, they are like a little bit gayer.
Well, you have to like turn it. You got to turn it up.
You have to, because if you're watching a video and you don't give them the energy, how do you expect them to want to like keep watching the video if you're not giving? You got to start the video because you'll like borderline fucking yell on the phone and be like, "Hey guys!" Like you turn it on from the fucking second.
Got to turn that bitch on.
Yeah, but it's a good thing.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting too when you meet a guy who has who like really kind of presents one way on the gender continuum and then like in bed they're the opposite. You know what I mean? So one of the things I'm trying to normalize, because I see it kind of like on the apps and stuff, it'll be like mask for mask or like what, like all of that, you know? What I say is it's like, but like what I think we need to tweak is not so much like, because if you're attracted to masculinity, like that's what you're attracted to, that's probably part of your template. But what I think people need to understand is like, no, what you like is masculine sex. Yeah. Which is completely, and like who you are sexually is completely different than who you are like socially or at a party or online or like, you know, like we all have these different parts of ourselves. And so I think that's been a cool distinction I've shared with some gay friends recently.
Really, can I tell you, I would say sexually I have 2 different personalities. Oh. Because I think it depends on the person I'm with. Because sometimes, like, let's say, for example, you know, Luke, no shade, like, this kid's 21. Like, I'm never going to, like, have someone like that top me. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're younger. They're kind of, like, more inexperienced. They, you know, like, that's not, for me, what I find attractive. I could be an ounce more submissive if the person's maybe older or more dominant or the situation leads it to that way. But I think if there's, you know, a little twink who's going to try, I'm like, I would be turned off in 2 seconds. Be like, this is not how I foresee this going, because I feel more dominant in that situation with them.
That makes sense.
Interesting. For me, I've actually found that my physical type is more like kind of consistent, like regardless like of position. It's like I'm just not that attracted to twinks. Like I'm just not. Like I would rather you have like any other body type, and it doesn't matter.
Literally same.
It just doesn't matter to me.
No twinks.
It just doesn't matter to me.
You were like be fat or muscular, but don't be a twink.
Yeah, totally. Well, I don't want to. Well, I mean, I'm a fair, like when you met, you even said it. You were like you are way taller than I thought. It was like I am 6'2".
Yeah, you don't. Am I?
What are those twinks gonna do?
Am I shorter or taller than you thought?
I didn't have an expectation, honestly. Yeah.
What about you?
But also most people are shorter than me.
People always say you present shorter.
People think I'm taller in person or taller in videos and I'm shorter in person.
Yeah. I guess, well, maybe it's because I'm like seated mostly, or like walking and you like can't tell.
That makes sense.
Oh, seated. I was what does this mean, seated? I was like,
get your mind out of the gutter.
Seated. I was like, what does seated mean? Got it. Like you were seated for your videos. Yes. Got it. How do you think you present different in the bedroom compared to your real personality?
It depends on the vibe, really.
So you're like me.
Yeah, I think
it depends on the person.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a range of people. I'm not gonna hook up with a twink though, probably, but like, I think I do have a I mean, yeah, it just depends.
See, I have no problem hooking up with a twink. I just am not gonna get fucked by a twink. Like I will top a twink.
Oh.
But I'm not going to be
No
topped by a
twinks.
twink.
No twinks for me.
You're anti-twink total.
For sure.
And you're anti-twink total.
I'm anti-twink.
Well, just
Yeah.
just sexually.
Yeah.
Like not like I want them to have rights.
Yeah. Twinks deserve
Like
rights.
I'll give you therapy. I'll be your friend. I'll
Twinks
wingman
deserve
you.
rights, but not in my bedroom.
That's fair. That's fair.
Just kidding. Yeah, no, not for
But
me.
you're not kidding. It's fine.
Yeah, for sure, not my type.
I mean, listen, everybody has a
Yeah.
type, and I think I hate where we're going because I think everyone's like too scared to share what their actual type is nowadays.
For sure.
because You're expected to be
Like,
into
you're
so many
fat
things.
shaming,
and
you're blah,
why
blah, blah,
aren't you
blah, blah.
open-minded to
Yeah.
trying this? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why do I have to be open-minded to trying
If you don't
something?
like
If I
this,
don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
I can't even eat fucking broccoli. You think I'm gonna try? No.
Yeah.
You think I'm gonna try twink?
Yeah.
So, but who is the comedian? I want to say it was like Ali Wong has this bit about like
Yes.
body positivity where she's like women are so cruel to each other. They're like, oh my god, no, you're gorgeous at that size. Like you do you, and she's
That's
like
true.
they're just being competitive because they want to like
They
hit the
wanna be
man.
the hot
I
girl.
feel like gay men, even though it's very cruel and toxic in its own way, in the opposite, they're just like. You don't have a boyfriend? Like, did you try getting in way better shape? Did you try being hotter? And but you kind of see what their point is.
Yeah.
That is where they're going.
Like,
You
they're
that's
trying to
where
help
they're
you.
going.
Yeah.
You know?
They're like
But does that
little
like really help you? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like being
Or they're
in
like,
shape
yes,
doesn't help
queen,
you.
you're eating, and they're like wearing like a crop top.
Not eating.
You're like, oh yes, you slaying, sister, and they like look like garbage.
Yeah. Our favorite word that we learned the other day is that's so clit.
That's so.
Like
clit.
I love it. Someone
I
was
know.
like, "Oh my
I'm
god,
gonna
that's
post a
so
video
clit,"
about
and
it.
we were like,
I was like, this is hilarious.
I
I'm
was
gonna
like,
start
I
using
love
it.
that
Yeah,
new
I'm gonna start
terminology.
using it.
That's so
That's
clit.
so clit.
Because I've heard that's so cunt, and I
Yeah,
understand
that's so
that.
cunt is
But that's
very-
so clit. Like that's so
Yeah.
new.
When did cunt become a compliment? That happened in the last like 3 months.
No,
No,
I
it's
have
been
a
a thing for a
shirt
year
that says
or two.
cunt
Oh.
for
It's been a thing for
years.
years.
that I
Oh,
wear, yeah.
oh my God! Well, it only
Yeah, keep on serving
it only
cunt.
just
You were in a
came into my
relationship
awareness.
coming back. Yeah. You are back now.
Oh, that's so
you
true.
were you were hidden from society for quite a long
Cunt
time.
as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been a thing for like 4, 5, 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
cunt's been
I
around
stand
for a
corrected.
minute.
I trust
Status,
you. I trust
yeah.
you both on this.
Like I wouldn't call my mom a cunt, but like when I'm describing something, like I'll say like, "Oh yeah, that's cunt."
Yeah.
Well, I feel like maybe the trend I recently picked up on is people started describing like fashion as cunty,
Yeah.
like as a good thing, but like maybe that's also been around for years and I
it's
just
been
didn't
for a
know.
few years, I'd
Do you
say.
think your fashion's giving cunty?
Oh my God.
It's so cunt.
I have to reference that
On
we
the Pratt
initially
couch.
we initially no shade to the hotel we recently worked with, but we were supposed to film this podcast in a hotel, and I had this vision of like filming it therapy in bed, and I thought it was gonna be a cute moment. And I texted Joe. I was like, Joe, can we like just be like shirtless or in underwear, laying under the sheets, and we just all talk on mics? And he goes, "You two can. I'm gonna be in my pajamas." And so I was like, "Okay, that's fine."
He's like, sorry, PG for me.
Yeah, and then I was like, "Are you comfortable if we're shirtless in bed with you?" And he was like, "Yeah, you could do whatever you want." And I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then the hotel said, "You gotta go," and
Yeah.
we pivoted to this lovely therapy room.
Yeah. Well, you know, all of my media stuff, it's completely separate from my practice and clinical work. Like
Yeah.
it's just like legally, like in terms of how I organize my days, it's just church and state.
Totally.
But I will never forget the day. I forget which video it was, but like it was like all of my patients like saw it. Like it was a very like successful video.
Yeah.
And so I had to like talk about it, obviously.
Damn.
And
You,
so
like, had to
yeah,
send an
I
email to
don't they
everybody?
just don't need to see me shirtless.
Yeah.
You know, I think
That's
that's
fair. Yeah.
that's not strictly in my counseling
I get what
ethical
you mean.
code,
Yeah.
but
Well, because
you know.
it's interesting because your business is your personal, like it's both. It's
Yeah.
like your content, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like all of us.
Which is
Like
cool.
your
Yeah.
business is what you're doing.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
but like your job.
You have
like-
a real
yes,
business
You have like a real job that
that
is
you
also
are-
your content, which
yes.
is interesting. Like it's
Yes.
intertwined. So
Yeah, yeah.
like, it's like without it, it's like it's the same. I don't know. It's like,
Wait, this is TMI, but have you ever had emotional connection to somebody you were giving therapy to?
Well,
I know
like,
it doesn't start off that
we
way.
can't talk about that. Legally.
But
But
if
you,
you ever-
mean you mean like was I like in love with them?
Yeah, like have you not
Oh.
in love, but if you ever like started gaining feelings because you were having such deep combos that
Oh, I have an
think it's
emotional connection to
natural.
every single patient for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way, like, maybe not every single one. Like, if someone comes in and I'm just like, I give you like 12 weeks of CBT and then like you get out, like that's cognitive
What's
behavioral
CBT?
therapy. So it's
Oh.
it's just just a little bit more heady. Like I just you like just kind of like rewire thoughts all day. But for some of the more like like for some like some like really like deep work I've done, like people will be like, well, how do you even like, help someone that went through that trauma or like their family treated them that way? It's kind of an oversimplified answer, but the answer is it's like you love them. Like you love them like so hard, and they act out and they go through all their stages with you, and it's like, and you just stay there, and then that's what helps them get better.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you're like you have to. I mean, you probably
do
know.
you take notes? Like, do you actually remember the people, or do you actually have to take notes because you're like, I want to remember this stuff?
I took pretty intense notes at the beginning of my career. The older I've gotten, just like the verbal memory with the practice, because it's like,
It's
I
like
mean,
having
you just do it all day.
Like it's like you're like, I kind of see what you mean.
Totally. Well, also the kind of things I'm really privileged to hear about, it's oftentimes like they're pretty memorable.
Yeah.
Like people have really
stuff.
interesting lives. I've yet to treat someone where I'm like, you're kind of boring. Like never, not once.
Yeah.
Not
Usually
once.
Yeah. I mean, not if they're coming in and if they're dumping something, but I'm sure they have some interesting stories.
Yeah.
What's
Ask
like,
me in 10 years. I might be like, they're all the same.
You're like, everyone's got this fucked up story.
Yeah, they probably have some pretty fucked up stories, and you're like, yeah, that's Mandy, and she yada yada
Mandy
yada.
alone, just you say that name,
Yeah.
Mandy, I'm like, Mandy's been through
Mandy
some
been
shit.
through
I don't know
some
Mandy,
shit,
but
and
I
you're
met
Are
her
you guys
on
talking
Reddit.
about my character that I cosplay?
Wait, do you really?
Oh yeah, her name's Mandy. It's at
one
Little
with
Miss
the wig, the blonde
Breakthrough,
one.
and I use like the
filter.
Snapchat filter where I like
No
look like a woman.
way.
And yeah, she's toxically spiritual and codependent.
Wait, that's crazy because I totally see that from Mandy.
Yeah, totally.
Wait, that's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. How often, this is a general term, but how often and who do you think should be in therapy? Like, is this something you should, most people, if you feel someone's good about themselves, they're fine with their lives, should a person just go see a therapist once a month? Do you go once every 6 months? Should someone be going once a week? Like, what's a general term that makes you a better person if you go to therapy? How often do you go?
Right. So the way I run my practice is you come in at least once a week.
Okay.
In rare occasions, we can downgrade to every other week. But for the most part, I don't go less than that, because what inevitably happens is like you got to reschedule. Or I get sick, or like something ends up happening, and then it's like another month, and then at that point, like, are you gonna come?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Some people kind of like the security of, well, I want to see you once a month, because what if I have to, start seeing you more?
Yeah.
But what I tell them is, it's probably worth your money to just, if you're going to be doing this, like, let's actually like do the work.
It's worth your time.
Yeah.
Because I've never done therapy, and a lot of my friends in LA, like most of my friends in LA, like do therapy like once a week. And yeah, I mean, I just have never done it, and I guess I've never known if I need it. I've always felt like I don't think I need it. I guess I'll know if I do, but maybe I.
Well, people always say if you've never seen a therapist, you should at least go to therapy once, because I think what you're getting at is after the first consultation, if you will, your first meeting, like things might come up that you don't realize, because who knows? I don't know how you do it, right?
Yeah.
But maybe he has some probing questions that from his probing questions lead down rabbit holes that maybe you suppress something, or maybe you don't realize this blockage is keeping you from blank. Who the fuck knows? I don't know.
Well, I think so what I say is, everyone can benefit from therapy.
Yes.
I don't think it's a requirement for every single person.
Yes.
And I don't think it's a requirement for every single person. There's actually like a social justice aspect of it, because we don't have enough therapists to just treat every single person.
Yeah, that's correct.
Like and one of the arguments in the field is that, if, and I do think it's happening a little bit right now as mental health becomes less stigmatized.
Yeah.
Everyone, and this is true, if you know anyone in
Everybody's
therapy,
going to
all the therapists just stop accepting insurance, because why would we? It's, demand and supply, and you just start treating all the people that can pay you a ton of money, and then a lot of people who are socioeconomically disadvantaged and really like need support don't necessarily have that access. And so I think, because sometimes people will think that I'm, causing people to not try therapy, and that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, like, if you're gonna, I mean, it probably won't hurt. If you go. Reasons I would say you definitely need to go. It's like, are you experiencing like dysfunction? Like, are you like, is your dating life or professional life such a mess and you can't actually figure it out on your own? Like, maybe you need to talk to someone, or if you're just not able to meet your goals, whatever those are, maybe there's something about yourself that you're not aware of, that you maybe you just don't have the name for what's going on. I was trained by people who worked with a lot of like, like high power professionals who did a lot of coaching and stuff. So my therapeutic style is a little bit more pliable in the sense that, I can kind of shift into more like, you're not dysfunctional. You don't have a mental illness. You're just trying to self-actualize and grow. I can switch into that pretty quickly.
Gotcha.
Not all therapists are trained like that.
Yeah.
Some it's more just about like kind of like fixing symptoms, alleviating symptoms, stopping the dysfunction.
Like it's almost
and
like
then sending
copy
on your
paste
way.
almost.
Yeah, and it also depends. Like if you have OCD, a trained therapist who knows how to treat OCD like will probably fix it. If it's something like I don't know, like some sort of like kind of complex trauma case or something, like you might need to get like sent to a specialist.
Yeah.
But it all just kind of depends on what you're working on. Yeah.
Anything from this conversation, do you think either one of us should go see a therapist?
Let me think.
Eating disorders?
No, I
Sorry.
don't have any interest in fixing that, to be honest.
Yeah. No, not that I can think of, but I'll definitely tell you as soon as the cameras are off if I'm just being polite.
Ooh.
Perfect. Love that. Can't wait for that.
No, I feel like I don't feel too dysfunctional.
No,
so-
I've always been curious in
Yeah.
terms of, because I have friends who go to therapy and they
Typically, yeah.
talk so great about it. And they're like this,
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and that.
Things, yeah.
And so I'm always curious, like, what would therapy do for me? Like,
Yeah.
would therapy help me manage a different relationship or something? But I also think the psychoanalysis behind it freaks me out a little bit because I can
Yeah.
be someone who gets really in my head. And so I like to not think too far into things sometimes, because if I do think too far into things sometimes, I lack creativity, and creativity is like my whole MO.
Right.
So I would rather be 1% messy and
Yeah.
like stay creative and like keep
Yeah.
that flow,
Just
because
little-
that's how I
A little
feel
dysfunction
I
and
work best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Totally.
yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
to change that part.
No, for sure. Well, and improperly conducted, the psychoanalytic styles of therapy can cause more harm than they can help. Because, I mean, think about it. Like, thinking about your problems all the time and trying to assign them different meaning could actually make them worse.
Yeah.
And so I have. It's a huge controversial thing in my field, but I've inherited patients who have like been through years of psychoanalysis, and it has just like fractured them. And then I have to like try to piece it together, you know what I mean, and kind of teach them like basic stuff about from other orientations. And so and I'm not hating on psychoanalysis. For anyone who's listening, is properly conducted, it can be really a powerful modality. But like in any profession, there's a lot of people that like don't know what they're doing. So
there's not scam artists in every profession, but there kind of is.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. How often would you, because you can prescribe medication to people, I'm assuming, right?
I cannot. No.
Oh, you cannot.
No.
Okay. How, do you think just going to therapy can solve a lot of the problems, or do you think a lot of these things people need to be medicated for? Like anxiety, for example. I remember I had really bad anxiety before I came out. Like I would hyperventilate, be super fucking crazy, and I would have to take myself for walks.
Yeah.
And then it got out of control, so I started taking whatever pill it was. And then my mom wanted me to get off the pill because she said if I don't learn how to like manage it, I'm going to be dependent on this pill for like the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so then I learned how to not deal with it with a pill.
Right.
And I learned how to deal with anxiety. And now I don't even, everyone obviously always has it, but I don't think I have it anymore.
Right. Most mental health concerns can be treated by therapy. There have been some studies showing that medication actually isn't effective without it. A lot is, like medication is definitely like real, there are some that medication needs to be the first line of defense. So certain kinds of like bipolar disorder, stuff kind of on like the schizophrenia spectrum, if like you're like hallucinating or like, stuff. ADHD is one that often medication is actually like a really great first defense. But there's also a lot of research coming out right now looking into like diet and mental health. And I think that's kind of like probably the next wave. I know that, for me, just because I'm like a nerd about this stuff, like I have gotten super precise about like what foods like inflame me or like whatever it is, and I totally feel a difference like mentally and emotionally. Oh yeah,
I'm
for
with
sure.
you. I'm very like when like I'm half French, and so like when I go to Europe and everything like that, and walking, losing weight, and all that stuff, like certain foods, I can tell the difference right away between foods and like how it makes me feel, energy levels and stomach and all that stuff.
100%.
Do you think different food helps your brain?
100%.
What do you
Wait, that's
mean?
crazy.
Yeah, her name is well, there's a lot of different schools of thought. I'm very fond of her name's Dr. Georgia Eady. I think her website's like Diagnosis Diet. And I love her because she's like, I mean, she's such a bitch. Like she's so
I
funny.
love
Like
that, though.
so her whole school of thought is she's very like pro keto paleo. Like that's kind of like what she thinks the research supports
Yeah.
for like good mental health. But she'll like get on a stage and she'll be like, you know, the government came out with like guidelines for this kind of diet and it cited, you know, 457 studies. So I read all 457 of them and 400 of them had methodology so poor they should have never been included in a
God,
policy recommend. And I'm
hilarious.
just like, you go, girl.
Yeah.
Like,
Damn.
I'm
But
like,
honestly, thank God someone's reading it. 'cause
Totally.
Could you imagine
Nobody
reading that
else
much
is.
shit?
No.
one's gonna read that.
No.
It's probably
you know, she's a Harvard trained psychiatrist. Like
Yeah.
she's worth listening to.
interesting.
Harvard bitches know how to read.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. Food in the U.S. sucks.
Food in the U.S. does suck,
Yeah.
but I don't think the food has helped me think differently. I have noticed a difference in my physical body
Oh,
from
totally.
eating
Yeah.
in Europe or wherever we were
Yeah.
eating.
Right.
American food is absolutely garbage. There's no defending
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You eat the same foods too, but yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. That I
Yeah.
can notice
Yeah.
a difference
Yeah.
in my body of eating the same food here,
Yeah.
and if I order that in like Italy,
Yeah.
ingestion, whatever,
Yeah.
physically, completely different worlds.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So-
I agree.
Joe, I'm so sad. This just happened so fast, but I'm getting
Oh my
to wrap
God.
up.
Oh my
Hold on,
God.
we're getting the
No.
But Daddy Nucci, why don't you tell them where they can find you?
So you can find me at joenuccitherapy.com. That has the link to all the socials and the YouTube, Substack, and everything like that.
Ooh, Substack. He's a Substack.
And if
Yeah.
you want a consultation,
Oh yeah.
And
I practice in New York and Colorado. No one has ever really successfully become my patient through DMs, but you can like Google me and find my like practice postings, and you can look that up.
Do you do Zoom?
Yeah, all my patients are virtual right now. Actually, I tried going back in person last year for like 3 months, and everyone would come to see me in person, and then would just be like, you know, I don't want to do the commute. Can I
You're like,
do
let's
it?
just
And
do
I
it
was like, well,
Zoom.
this is a waste of office space.
Yeah,
and,
you're
and
like,
a
let
budget.
me save
So
the rent. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and you know, it's kind of interesting. 'Cause I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, like how do you feel like connected, etc. Like I actually feel in a lot of ways, maybe it's just like because of our generation, but I feel more connected to my patients virtually because like I see them in their homes, like I see them like, you know, like if they're too depressed to get out of bed, I'm like in bed with them. Like it's like more intimate than an office in some
Does it
ways.
feel less intense, maybe too.
Yeah.
For them,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
could be some anxiety that comes into like, meeting in person and
Right.
how to answer.
Yeah.
Like what's aware to try to impress you when they show up.
Yeah. All right.
Well, guys, thank you for tuning into this episode
out.
of Lost Nuggs.
See you next week.
Yeah, maybe you'll see a therapy session one day. But probably. Who knows? Who knows?